I'm sorry, sir, but your seat has been moved to the back of the plane. We had to make some adjustments. The airline agent at the gate barely looked up from her computer screen, her voice flat and uncaring. If you believe that those who served our country deserve our utmost respect, not dismissal, perhaps you'll understand what happened next. Arthur Harris stood before her, an older man with kind eyes and a gentle face. He wore simple clothes, a plain jacket over a collared shirt. Nothing about him screamed for attention. He held a boarding pass for a first-class seat, a ticket bought and paid for, a small comfort for a long journey. He was on his way to a special ceremony, a very important one, though he wasn't the type to boast about it. In his worn leather briefcase, nestled among some old papers, was a small, unassuming box. Inside it, a star-shaped medal on a blue ribbon, the Medal of Honor. Arthur had hoped for a quiet flight, a chance to gather his thoughts. He wasn't looking for special treatment, just what he was owed. "Excuse me," Arthur said, his voice polite but firm. "I believe there must be a mistake. This is my seat assignment." He held out his original boarding pass. The agent, whose name tag read Brenda, finally glanced at it, then back at her screen. "No mistake, sir. The system has reassigned you. Your new seat is 34B. Middle seat, back of the plane." She tapped her pen impatiently. "Next in line, please." Arthur felt a familiar pang of disappointment. Not for the seat itself, though the comfort would have been nice for his old joints, but for the casual disregard. It reminded him of other times, other dismissals, long ago. "Could you please tell me why it was changed?" he asked, still calm. He knew staying calm was important. He had learned that lesson in places far more dangerous than an airport terminal. Brenda sighed, a loud, exaggerated sound. "Sir, we have important passengers who needed those seats. It's a full flight. You should be happy you have a seat at all." Her tone was sharp, her eyes cold. She clearly judged him by his simple appearance, deciding he wasn't one of the important passengers. "I understand flights can be full," Arthur replied, his voice even. "But I did purchase this specific seat. Perhaps I could speak with a supervisor?" Brenda's eyes narrowed. "A supervisor? For what? Because you don't like your new seat? Everyone wants to be in first class, sir. We can't all fit." She smirked. "There's no supervisor available for this. Now, please move along. You're holding up the line." She gestured dismissively. Other passengers were starting to stare. Arthur felt a flush of embarrassment, but also a growing sense of injustice. He had faced down enemies with more courage than this woman showed respect. He thought for a moment. He could just walk away, take the bad seat, and endure the uncomfortable flight. Part of him, the part that craved peace, wanted to do just that. But then he remembered a promise made to him by men who understood sacrifice, men who understood honor. He remembered a small, laminated card tucked into his wallet, a card he rarely looked at. "Ma'am," Arthur said, his voice still quiet but with a new edge of resolve. "I need to make one phone call. It will only take a moment." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Make it quick, or you'll miss boarding entirely." She turned away, already calling for the next passenger. Arthur stepped to the side, out of the line. He pulled out his old, slightly battered wallet. He found the card. On it was a single phone number, no name, just the digits. He took a deep breath. He hadn't used this number in years. He hoped it still worked. He hoped the man on the other end would remember him. He dialed. The phone rang only once. A crisp, professional voice answered immediately. "Yes?" "This is Arthur Harris," Arthur said, simply. "I was given this number by General Wallace a long time ago. He said if I ever truly needed it." There was a brief pause on the other end. Then the voice changed, warmed. "Mr. Harris, of course. General Wallace always spoke very highly of you, sir. What can I do for you, Arthur?" Arthur explained the situation calmly, factually. He told him the airline, the flight number, the gate, and what the agent had said. He didn't complain or raise his voice. He just stated the facts. When he finished, the man on the other end said, "Stay right where you are, Mr. Harris. This will be handled immediately." The line clicked dead. Arthur put his phone back in his pocket. He stood quietly by the window, watching the planes on the tarmac. A few minutes passed. Brenda, the gate agent, shot him a dirty look, probably thinking he was still sulking. Then, things started to happen. Fast. First, a hush fell over the usually noisy gate area. Then, down the concourse, Moving at a speed that was almost a run, came a group of people. At the front was a man in an expensive suit, his face grim. Flanking him were two other men in airline executive uniforms, and slightly behind them, two uniformed airport police officers. They weren't strolling. They were moving with purpose. Serious purpose. Brenda, the gate agent, saw them coming. Her jaw dropped. She fumbled with her papers, her smug expression vanishing, replaced by a look of pure panic. Her face went pale. The man in the expensive suit arrived at the gate, breathing a little heavily. He scanned the area, his eyes sharp. "Where is Mr. Arthur Harris?" he demanded, his voice carrying authority. Arthur stepped forward. "I am Arthur Harris." The man rushed over to him, extending his hand. "Mr. Harris, I am David McMillan, president of this airline. I am so sorry. I came as soon as I heard." His eyes were wide and he looked genuinely distressed. Brenda looked like she was about to faint. She stared at Arthur, then at Mr. McMillan, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Someone alerted me to a serious mishandling of one of our most honored guests," Mr. McMillan continued, his voice tight with anger, though not directed at Arthur. He shot a furious glare at Brenda, who shrank back. "There has been a terrible mistake, a completely unacceptable error in judgment. If you've ever seen someone realize they've made a huge mistake, type "uh-oh" in the comments. Brenda was living that moment. One of the executives with Mr. McMillan stepped forward. He was holding a tablet. "Mr. Harris," he said, his voice full of respect. "We have your original first-class seat, 1A, waiting for you, of course. But more than that, we understand you are traveling to Washington for the annual Medal of Honor Society reception." Arthur nodded, a little surprised they knew the details so quickly. "Sir," the executive continued, "your service to this country is immeasurable. The fact that you were treated this way, it's shameful." He looked at Brenda with disgust. "Agent Brenda, you are to report to Human Resources immediately. Hand over your badge." Brenda stammered, but I was just following procedure." Her voice was a small squeak. "Procedure?" Mr. McMillan boomed, his face reddening. "Procedure does not involve disrespecting passengers. Procedure does not involve arrogantly dismissing a man who is a national hero. A man who holds the Medal of Honor." At the words "Medal of Honor," a collective gasp went through the passengers waiting at the gate. They all stared at Arthur, no longer with annoyance at a delay, but with awe and respect. Some looked ashamed for their earlier impatience. Brenda's face was now chalk white. The Medal of Honor. She had dismissed a recipient of the nation's highest award for valor as unimportant. The weight of her actions seemed to crush her. She fumbled with her badge, her hands shaking so much she could barely unclip it. An airport police officer stepped forward and took it from her gently but firmly. Mr. McMillan turned back to Arthur, his expression softening. "Mr. Harris, on behalf of the entire airline, I offer you our deepest, most sincere apologies. There is no excuse for what happened here today. None." He continued, "Your flight will be personally escorted by our chief pilot. You will have anything you need, anything at all. And your return flight, and any future flights with us, for you and your family, will be complimentary. First class, always. It's the very, very least we can do." Arthur was a man of few words. He was moved not by the offers, but by the swift correction of a wrong. "Thank you, Mr. McMillan," he said. An apology was all that was needed. "No, sir," Mr. McMillan insisted. "More than an apology is needed. We need to ensure this never, ever happens again. We will be reviewing our training, our procedures. We will use this as a learning moment, a very painful one for us, to ensure all our staff understand the meaning of respect, especially for our veterans and heroes." He personally escorted Arthur onto the plane, past the now wide-eyed flight attendants. He led him to seat 1A. The chief pilot came out from the cockpit to shake Arthur's hand and express his own apologies and profound respect. Arthur finally settled into his seat. The first-class cabin was quiet. He looked out the window, a small smile on his face. Justice had been swift. Not for him, really, but for the principle of the thing. For the idea that respect wasn't something to be earned by a fancy suit or a loud voice, but by character and service. The story of what happened at Gate C-12 spread through the airline like wildfire. Brenda was, indeed, reassigned to a position where she would not interact with customers again, and she was required to attend extensive sensitivity and respect training. New directives were issued company-wide about accommodating veterans, especially distinguished ones. Arthur Harris made it to his reception in Washington. He stood tall among his brothers in arms, men who understood the weight of the medal he wore, a medal he had never sought but had earned through unimaginable bravery. He never bragged about what happened at the airport. He didn't need to. He was a quiet hero, content in the knowledge that sometimes, even in a busy, impersonal world, a single phone call could remind people of what truly matters. The real lesson that day wasn't just about one airline employee's mistake. It was about remembering that heroes walk among us every day. They don't always wear uniforms or announce their deeds. Sometimes, they are quiet older men in simple jackets, just trying to get to where they need to go. They deserve our respect. They deserve our kindness. Always. If you believe that true heroes deserve honor and that judging people by their appearance is wrong, remember Arthur's story. Respect is a gift everyone deserves to receive.